What's on your mind? That's the question the 2.6 billion users of Facebook around the globe are invited to answer each time they log on. Based on the most popular posts online, it seems that funny videos, fluffy animals, and what we are having for tea all seem to be on our minds a lot. But sometimes there is a rare occasion when we actually do share what is on our mind, which can either lead to a negative downward spiral of cynicism or an inspiring upward spiral of appreciation. But today, what is on your mind? If you were in a cartoon and a thought bubble was drawn coming from your head, what words would be in it? Would they be anxious, fearful, or damaging words? Or uplifting, encouraging, or hopeful words? The truth is, depending on the moment when that cartoon is drawn, our thoughts could be on either end of the spectrum, or probably in between. The truth is, we are human. We live in a broken world, with all the struggles and battles that come with that. So our thoughts will, at times, be cynical and negative. We too live in a beautiful world, with all the blessings and joys that come with that. So our thoughts will, at times, be joyful and positive. But today, let's recognise that we can choose not to be held captive to our thoughts. But as 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says, we can take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. We have a choice. The film A Beautiful Mind tells the story of American Nobel Prize winner John Nash, who lives with the tension of an incredibly intellectual mind and also a broken mind as he battles mental illness. We see the complexity of the human brain, its incredible capability, but also the burdens it can sometimes bring. The film shows us the impact the mind has upon our words, our actions, and our relationships. Our thoughts are not isolated entities, but in fact determine much of how we live our lives. We really do have a beautiful mind, and we are created to honour God with our thoughts. In these days of physical distancing, many of us will be spending more time alone with our thoughts, with few interruptions of our train of thought, which perhaps at times can lead to that downward spiral. In the film Kung Fu Panda, Master Oogway says this: "Your mind is like water. When it is agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But when you let it settle, the answer becomes clear." Now, we might sleep on it, go for a walk, or phone a friend to try to clear our mind. All good advice. But by intentionally looking up, it is possible to step out of a negative spiral, to realign our minds with Christ, and to meditate on the goodness of our lives and God's love. It's not just a case of positive thinking. It is recognising who God is, who we are, and discovering the beauty of our minds. There's a wonderful verse in Paul's letter to the church in Philippi which says this: "And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honourable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." How many of your thoughts are focused on praiseworthy things? Is your mind drawn to beauty and goodness? Perhaps you are a glass half full kind of person, or perhaps a glass half empty, or perhaps you're just grateful that you've got a glass. But it's so easy to let our circumstances define our thoughts, rather than our thoughts define our circumstances. I've just returned from a great fortnight in France with glorious sunshine, beautiful beaches and amazing crepes. Whilst there, it was easy to think about lovely and excellent things that are worthy of praise. But as we got off the ferry in Plymouth, stuck in a long queue at passport control, in the pouring rain with a long journey, it wasn't so easy. How quick was I to forget the goodness of the previous 2 weeks? And how quick are we sometimes to allow our thoughts to run away on a negative spiral when we look to the future, even though we know of the faithfulness of God in the past? I love looking at old photograph albums, or the 21st century version, Time Hop. As we look back, perhaps we do so with rose-tinted glasses, remembering those golden days and reminiscing of times gone by. It's so lovely to see where we have been and reminded of where we are now. We might not always remember things exactly the way they happened. A conversation with someone else who was at the same place may prove that, sure enough. But there will be memories that we have chosen to let go of. Other memories that we wish we could forget. And other memories that we replay again and again that fill our minds with joy. But how good are we at remembering the praiseworthy things that God has done in our past and promises to do in our future? In Exodus chapter 14, we see the Israelites delivered from slavery and brought through the Red Sea. But then just a couple of chapters later, we hear them grumbling about not having food to eat. We want to say to them, don't you remember what God just did for you? The water stood up like 2 walls and you walked through the Red Sea on dry ground. Don't you think that the God who can do that is also capable of giving you food to eat? Trust him. And then, of course, we remember that we do the same sort of thing. God brings us through a trial, answers our prayer, and within a few days, it's almost forgotten. We're already looking to the next struggle on the horizon and finding reasons to complain. Psalm 77 verse 11 says this: I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds. Is this true of you? Do you let your mind be filled with stories of the goodness of God from the Bible, yes, but also from your own life? Each and every one of us has a story of how we got to where we are today. And whether we recognise it or not, that story tells of the miracles of God. Yes, that initial gift of life we received, but also perhaps escapes from sticky situations, or release from circumstances of slavery, or maybe a miraculous transformation in your life, or simply knowing that you have never walked alone. Tell your story to another person. Write down how God has been good to you today. Pause to simply thank God for his faithfulness, and fill your mind with praiseworthy things. There are so many things in our world seeking our attention, some truly positive and others truly damaging. but we have a choice over where we fix our minds. As writer Jenny Allen says, the greatest spiritual battle of our generation is taking place between our ears. The battle is fierce, but the battle can be won when we fix our eyes on Christ. In these days ahead, if you are a Facebook user, every time you see those words, "What's on your mind?" think for a moment on whether those things on your mind are true and honourable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. And if not, reflect perhaps on why not and seek God's wisdom in that moment. And if you don't use Facebook, why don't you write a post-it note and stick it on a mirror to remind you to ask yourself that same question. In these final moments, let's fill our minds on these words by Tim Hughes based on Psalm 19. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart bless your name, Jesus. And the deeds of the day and the truth in my ways speak of you, Jesus. For this is what I'm glad to do. It's time to live a life of love that pleases you. And I will give my all to you. Surrender everything I have and follow you. I'll follow you. God bless you.